What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Tate Talk Sports Podcast. I am back today. I know it has been a while since I made a video, obviously very busy with school, among other things, but I'm back again to make a video during perhaps my favorite time of the sports year, and that is March Madness. Obviously, I made a video this time last year, my most successful video on my channel about, I believe it was my Sweet 16 picks. If not Sweet 16, may have been Elite Eight. Either way, did a video around this time last year, and a lot of you guys liked it. So I figured I'd make another one. However, due to my superstitions along with sports, and my picks not going so well this year, and a certain team that I want to win, obviously can't jinx it, can't say it, but I didn't want to do that picks video again. Once because I've done it before, but also because I'm way too superstitious about this stuff and didn't want to pick my team going all the way in this bracket or not. Either way, just for the slight chance that it messes something up. Obviously, it can't, but I'm superstitious. What are you going to do? And so I still wanted to make a video. And so I was figuring out what I could do. And then I saw this ESPN analyst kind of make a video on re-ranking the teams left in the Sweet 16 of the tournament, and I thought that's such a great idea, because obviously there's been a lot of upsets. A lot of big teams aren't in it. A lot of big teams are, but maybe they don't look as good as they did in the beginning. So, what does the ranking shake out between those 16 teams that are left that have advanced to get to the Sweet 16? And so I thought that was a great idea. Decided I would do that as my video for this year. And so I'm going to get straight into it. I'm going to do kind of six at a time, and then the top four, and then maybe reveal who I think will win. Maybe we'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and start it out with the 16 through 11. Obviously, you can see my rankings right there. So starting out, we have, let me just not mess up any of these names, just pull up my list. We have St. Peter's at 16. Obviously, the big upset team, knocking off Kentucky. No one really expected them to be there, even in the second round, and they advanced in the second round. Now they're in the Sweet 16. And obviously, it's cool. You love to see the Cinderella story, but they're still ranked 16 in my book in the power rankings, although they're hot. They're still that lower team, obviously lower than the other guys. Then at 15, we've got Iowa State. Iowa State knocking off bigger competition in their run to the Sweet 16, obviously an 11 seed. So maybe this is unfair, dropping them even lower in this rankings, but I think they're playing hot, and I think they're punching above their weight. However, I do think if you're going on paper, pure rankings, I think 15 is about right. 14 is Arkansas. Now, Arkansas is currently a 4 seed, and to me, that's very high. They've been playing a lot worse than a 4 seed, and they're very susceptible to going on low runs and not really making it. They've kind of gotten through their first 2 rounds, is how I'd say it. So I have them at 14. 13, I've got Michigan. Michigan, another team who I really think is punching above their weight, but they're doing it well. I mean, they beat Tennessee, which is a fantastic win for Juwan Howard and his squad. However, I do, like I said, think they're punching above their weight. But they're still a great team. That's why they're coming in at 13 for me. And just because I have a team ranked lower doesn't mean they're not hot, or doesn't mean they're not going to play better than a team on a certain day. It just, if I'm going straight on paper, this is how my rankings are. Going into 12, we have Miami playing their best basketball at the best time. Obviously, knocking off Auburn with a fantastic performance. Not just knocking off Auburn, I mean pushing off Auburn. It wasn't even close. They looked fantastic. They've got Wong, who is such a dynamic scorer. They've got a lot of age. There are some players that are like 25 on that team, which is crazy. And they're showing that experience and that toughness in the tournament. And so for me, they're 12. Obviously, I have them 12, but again, they're hot and they could keep going easily. But in this ranking, I have 12. Hurts me to put them above Miami, but at 11, I have UNC. Obviously, I don't want to see UNC win again for obvious reasons. If you don't know why, it's because I'm a Duke fan. I'd rather see them lose. It was great to see Baylor lose. Would have rather Baylor win in that matchup. Either way, they are 11. Give them credit. They're hitting their shots. Their guards are playing well at the right time of the year. Bacot is playing fantastic on the boards. Their bigs are dynamic. And I have them ranked above UCLA, as you can see in this bracket. Who is going to be who they're going to play in the Sweet 16. I do think I am going to give out one of my picks here. I think UCLA will probably lose to UNC, because we saw earlier in the year UCLA played Gonzaga. played the bigs, a team with bigs, a team with pace, a team with shooting, and it's hard for them to keep up with the pace as well as match up with the bigs. They've struggled with that all year. They struggled against Akron just because they had some size. And so UNC is probably favorable in that matchup. But again, if we're going strictly off paper, I do think UNC is going to be below UCLA among some other big teams. So now let's get into those other big teams, talking about my rankings 10 through 5. Now, starting off immediately right after UNC, you can see UCLA. Very talented team, got some age. Juzang and his coming back to UCLA is big for them. They got Tiger Campbell at the point, who's a heck of a player, so much energy and shooting. I think they're a great team. Their ranking in this list is low because I think they underperform in general. They almost lost to Akron again, really low seed. And then they struggle against big guys. I think they have such a glaring weakness, and it's going to show in this round. They may not lose because of it, because they are a great team. They have that shooting, they have the experience at the guards, a fantastic coach, and UNC could get cold. But I think they have such a glaring weakness that made me put them at 10. After that, we have Providence, who's making a nice little run in the tournament. No, not an upset run, but they're making a run, and that is great. I think they're a really good balance of energy, pace, and still having control. They've got really strong, experienced guards who know when to push the pace, know when to slow the pace, and they've got defense. Just a really well-oiled team, and a team that hits shots when they needs it, is able to go on runs, but still maybe doesn't have the star power of a Gonzaga or an Arizona, something like that. So for that reason, they're going to be down here at 9. Going up at 8, I just want to mention this real quick. I just remembered another reason that I did this video was because the ESPN analyst that did it, I hated his rankings, to be blatantly honest with you. My 16 through 11 looks somewhat similar to him. But getting into this top 10, and especially kind of my top 4, there were some things he did that I really disagreed with. And putting Villanova above a lot of these teams that I have them below was one of those. So I wanted to really emphasize that when I put Villanova down here. And I don't say that because Villanova is bad or I don't like Villanova, because they've got Colin Gillespie at the point, and he's a fantastic player. I mean, he hits the shots. He's just your typical Villanova point guard, a Jalen Brunson type. They just have those guards who they just got this fundamentals, and they can shoot and they can run the game, and they do. And Gillespie did that in the first round, did it in the second round. Here they are in the third. However, they've shown that they can lose in big games. They lost to Marquette twice this year. They've lost other kind of to weaker teams. So I think there's a really, really good chance they kind of fall off at the wrong time. When they need a bucket, they don't get it, or when they need a performance in a section of the game, they don't get it. So for me, Villanova's lower on this list, although they have Gillespie, they have some really solid older guys who could get them there, but I still think they're lower. 7, we've got Texas Tech. Texas Tech is a 3 seed who I really liked going into the tournament because of how good they are defensively. However, against Notre Dame, they showed that they can lack offensively. They've got the transfer who's been playing really well for them, and their defense is fantastic. They really lock down. They're really strong. Not necessarily rim protection, but just solid perimeter and collapsing defense. And it shows against good teams. However, again, I think they can be lackluster offensively. And even when you're the strongest team defensively, all it takes is that defense to slip up a few times in clutch situations in the game. You can't get a basket back. I think that's why they're down at 7 for me and not higher. But again, still a really good team. Going to number 6, we've got U of H. U of H easily could be higher on this list for me if they didn't have some injuries to their key scorers. However, they're playing so well. I mean, they're hitting shots, and in general, they beat Illinois. They looked really good against Illinois, despite not having a real big or multiple bigs who can really match up with Kofi Cockburn. Looked like he was probably just going to eat in that game. Their defense and their defensive game plan was so well. They're so well coached, and they're shooting. They're not a great shooting team, but they're shooting great in the tournament. So what a time to start shooting. But at the same time, I think that weakness is the fact that they're missing a bit of your typical big or your larger than life big that quite a few teams have in this tournament. Teams like Purdue, Duke, obviously Gonzaga, all have size. And I think U of H might struggle when they come up against a team like that, and that shooting that they've been having maybe falls off a little bit. But again, number 6, they're playing fantastic. At number 5, Kansas, who is a 1 seed, so maybe this is a bit disrespectful, but I didn't really like Kansas coming into this tournament. Frankly, I'm a bit surprised they're still here. Almost got knocked off by Creighton. To me, they lack a true identity on offense, which isn't a bad thing. Other teams don't really have. Some teams don't really have an identity on offense either. But I think Kansas sometimes looks like they're just going through the motions, not necessarily all the way on top of it on defense. But at the same time, they're a number one seed, and they're a number one seed for the reason. They've got guys like McCormick, Brown, the other star, I'm forgetting his name, but all of them can shoot. They have great pace. They have good rim protection, good perimeter defense. They're a really solid team. But I think if they were to face a bigger squad, they might struggle, and that's why I have them down at 5. So now let's get into my top 4. Obviously, the biggest dogs, and in theory, the teams, all these teams, especially kind of top 7, 8 on, have a real good shot at winning it. But these 4, I think, in my mind, really have a great shot. Obviously, number 4, we're going with my guys, Duke. And a reason I made this list again is because somehow the guy doing the rankings had Duke at, I think, 8 under teams like Villanova, Texas Tech, and teams like that. And I thought after those first 2 round performances, that was just blatant disrespect, and I couldn't stand for it. Had to do my own rankings, had to put this out there so that people know how well Duke are playing. Now, when I say that, I don't mean that suddenly they've found some guy who's hitting shots, or suddenly they're hitting threes, or suddenly their defense is unstoppable. I just mean that their energy and the way they're playing is fantastic. Because I would have going into this tournament, I would have said Duke has no shot against Texas Tech. Don't have a shot at the championship. They don't have it in them. That was me before the tournament. But these 2 games, especially that Michigan State game, was a game changer. You saw energy, you saw passion that these guys are playing with that they didn't show in the regular season. And when they showed that passion, it showed that guys like Paolo want to take over the game. Mark Williams wants to protect the rim. Jeremy Roach is giving that extra mile on defense. Keel's hitting shots in the clutch. I mean, they just have guys performing better than they did in the regular season, and it's showing. And for that reason, I'm putting them up to 4, because they're playing with an energy that even some of the other teams aren't. They have the energy to win that last tournament for K. And I really thought it would have hurt them, actually, them playing that last tournament for K. But the players have done this really good thing of kind of saying, this isn't just Coach K's last tournament. This is probably our last tournament, given that the starting 5 is probably all going to get drafted probably in the first round. And that's a great point. This is their last tournament. Not only is it Coach K's, it's theirs. So they want this win as much as anybody. As much as they want to win it for Coach K, they want to win it for themselves. And it's showing, especially in that Michigan State game. So I had to put him at 4. Had to. I had to struggle not to put him at 3 or 2. Definitely not 1, but I put them at 4. That's where I settled. Number 3, we got the Boilermakers. Purdue was a team I liked a lot going into the tournament. I think Jaden Ivey is a stud. He's going to be so good wherever he gets drafted. They've got a 7'2" player, I believe he is, at the center, as well as other really good fundamental bigs, some shooters around the perimeter. They can be off and on, a little bit sporadic. That's kind of the nature of a player like Jaden Ivey. He can kind of disappear and then just explode. So the question is he going to explode at the right time? But I think I have such a mix of a tall combo guard and then a real big, as well as other bigs. They've got more traditional bigs, not just a giant in the paint. And I think it makes them really balanced. And like I said, they're vulnerable to those kind of runs where they just kind of shrink and don't look like themselves. But if they are able to even look like themselves for 75% of the game, I think they have a good chance to beat any of these other teams out there, even the 2 teams that I have above them over here. Which leads me to my number 2 team, which is Gonzaga. Honestly, hurts me to put them at number 2. I really don't think they're a number 2 ranked team. But at the same time, it's disrespectful to put the kind of overall 1 seed, regular season 1 seed, lower than 2, I felt. So I kept them at 2. Reason I don't like them being at 2, 1, I just don't like Gonzaga. But above that, I think they're playing pretty underwhelming right now. Timmy's playing well. Timmy's always going to play well. He's going to get the buckets. He's going to get the buckets in the paint. But Chet is a little bit underwhelming, especially really good when he goes against another, physical big. We saw it earlier in the year when they played Duke. He can kind of struggle a little bit. Still looks good, but still struggles. They just don't look like the powerhouse that I think some people expected they would be. Obviously, still a great team. They're ranked number 2 on my list, but I think they have some discrepancies, and that's why they're not 1. But at the same time, they've got Drew Timme, who's so good. They've got guards who can shoot. and they've got Chet. So they got to be number 2. Not 1, not 3, but 2, I think is the right spot for them, which leads to Arizona being at the 1 seed. Now, Arizona almost got knocked off by TCU in the second round, winning in overtime, kind of scraping by at the end, but they did scrape by. A win's a win. You know, you can't knock them for it. It was an ugly win, and they showed some areas where, you know, maybe they need to improve, or areas of weakness that they need to maybe try and hide, or game plan around. But they're still a great team. They're the tallest team in the tournament, which gives them so much size, and their guards are so athletic, but still can shoot, and they play with passion. I mean, if that's one thing you saw in the TCU game, it was passion. I mean, so much energy, and fighting for every possession, fighting for every rebound, fighting for every loose ball. And then they've got the size, they've got the shooting. Above all else, I think it's the size that for me puts them at the 1 seed. So those are my rankings. I currently don't have a favorite to win all of it. Well, I do personally have a favorite to win all of it. I'm sure you can figure out who it is. I'm not going to verbalize it at risk of jinxing myself. So, but those are my rankings. Obviously, if you guys disagree with any of them, you think Duke should be lower, think I'm being a homie, or you think Purdue should be higher, or Purdue should be lower, or Iowa State should be higher, or if I'm being rude to UNC, any of those things, you know, you guys let me know in the comments, or tell me if you like what my rankings were. We'll see how this plays out. It's been a great tournament so far. Lots of surprising upsets, some Cinderella teams making runs. It's just what you want to see out of a March Madness tournament. And despite my bracket being busted, I'm still enjoying watching the tournament so much, and it probably has a large part to do with the Duke performance. However, other than that, the whole tournament itself has been great so far, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and leave a comment and subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.